Move out. Michael, the department head of our business partner, said, "Subcontractor, working with someone like you will bring our company down." Instead of taking a sip, he threw his coffee cup right over my sister Jessica's head. My sister gasped and frantically reached for a handkerchief to wipe the coffee stain off her outfit. Jessica was being embarrassed in front of me, despite the fact that she had always put me first and taken care of me since we were young. I was really furious with Michael for his ridiculous actions. My sister's cold voice cut through the air as I was ready to scream, sending shivers down my spine. "Can you give Mr. Thompson a call?" She glared at Michael with sharp eyes and stated, "I need to speak with him." Aaron is my name. I am in my 30s, and I own and operate 15 businesses ranging from management consulting to producing and retailing leather goods to custom suit making. Despite being a part of a group of 15 firms, they all function rather differently because I launch businesses based on ideas that strike me at the moment. When a business takes off, I hand over day-to-day management to dependable staff members. The sense of accomplishment and joy I get from discovering new services and products that I wish were available is also quite great. It fascinates me to think about what business to launch next, but I know that my sister Jessica has played a big part in keeping me driven and aspirational. Because of our parents' negligence, we had very uncomfortable lives when we were little. We were shuffled between various relatives. My sister and I don't recall much about our parents as a result. When I became older, I understood why we kept changing schools, even if at first I didn't comprehend what was going on since I could see the reluctant looks on our relatives' faces when they took us in. "Don't worry, Aaron. I'll always protect you no matter what." I'm sure I would have broken down then if my sister hadn't said those words. When I was still very young and vulnerable, her words provided the emotional support I needed. However, she must have felt a great deal of strain from it. She cooked us meals, looked over school paperwork like a parent, and took care of me. In primary school, my sister experienced hearing loss, possibly as a result of all the stress. Instead of taking her to the hospital, our relatives told her to go to sleep, saying that it will get better. Consequently, the problem had gotten much worse by the time she complained of pain. Even with a hearing aid, her ears hardly work. Perhaps things might have worked out differently if she had gotten therapy sooner. Although she has a hearing aid, her problem is severe enough to interfere with her everyday life, and it seems that solutions such as a bone conduction device or middle ear implant were difficult to use in her instance. My sister never once complained, but the shock of losing her hearing must have been devastating. Her students made fun of her disease as a result of her illness, and our relatives treated her even worse after her hearing declined. But seeing Mom never give up and always go forward in spite of all the difficulties or barriers she encountered gave me the willpower to not get bogged down in my own problems. To say that my sister and I were like a team of two may sound conceited, yet depending on her taught me how to get by on my own. That's why I am aware that my sister is solely responsible for my success as an entrepreneur and business owner. I opened my eyes wide in astonishment when my sister, who I had looked up to since we were young, stated, "I'd like you to join me for this meeting." I was taken aback to see Jessica, who owns her own company and is often self-assured and forceful, beg for my assistance with such hesitancy. "It's not often that I see you uncertain, Jessica. Is this really such a difficult deal?" Although her business isn't as large as mine, she has managed it for a considerable amount of time. She should be accustomed to working with clients because she does the majority of the sales and negotiations herself. She must be in a very tough circumstance because she was begging for my assistance. I murmured this to Jessica, and she sheepishly shook her head. "I want to make sure this deal goes through because it's pretty significant, but I just can't seem to get along with the person in charge." She used to be a strong believer who never wavered when she was younger. However, since she's entered the professional world, she appears to be experiencing the challenges of mature social interactions. An individual is not necessarily a good person just because they occupy a prominent position in a big corporation. This client seems to be the kind of challenging person that nobody enjoys working with. I made the decision to go with my sister to the meeting as a way of saying thank you for everything that she has done for me. The location was a calm, private space that was ideal for talking about delicate subjects. Jessica was obviously anxious as she kept fiddling with the collar of her tailored suit and double-checking her appearance. I made the decision to pretend I worked at Jessica's company in case someone questioned because she had warned me, "Please don't mention that you run a company." Michael, the client, arrived a bit after the appointed hour as I was contemplating this. I apologize. I got distracted looking for a smoking area and forgot the time. Would you honestly use that as an explanation, even if it were true? As Jessica deftly handled the situation, I thought, we just arrived ourselves. Jessica didn't need to rely on sign language or any other kind of aid for the time being because of this degree of contact. Jessica's ability to carry on a coherent conversation despite her limited hearing and lip-reading abilities never ceases to astound me. Even though we had been waiting for quite some time and had come more than half an hour early, Michael seemed to take Jessica's remark at face value. Then, as if it were instinctive, he handed Jessica his jacket and remarked, "Then I should have taken more time for a smoke." I watched this discussion in silence until Michael gave me a questioning glance that suggested, "Who's this guy?" "I'm glad to have met you. My name is—" Michael interrupted me as I was getting up to introduce myself, stating, "I don't need an introduction from some low-level guy." I was happy that my worry was unfounded, and that he wouldn't question me about why we had the same last name. Michael's disagreeable attitude started to make me feel uneasy at the same moment. "Would you please just get me a drink? Make it black. I don't like sweet things." With hardly a glance, he threw the menu at Jessica and muttered this. With good reason, Jessica had a concerned expression when she stared at Michael. Jessica found it challenging to understand what Michael was saying and to read his lips because he had purposefully covered his mouth when issuing the instruction. Not only was his voice muffled, but he had covered his mouth so she could not possibly imagine what he'd spoken. Even though I didn't think it was necessary for him to be so petty, I also couldn't really criticize someone who was crucial to Jessica's company. I hit the button to summon the server, thinking it would be easier if I just took care of the order. But Michael gave me a stern look and told me to shut up, low-level man. I spend a lot of time determining whether my business partners are capable of handling simple exchanges. It's true that while doing business, it's critical to take into account not just the partner's business strategy, but also the enthusiasm and moral fiber of the organization's executives and staff. But it was obvious that Michael was trying to minimize Jessica with his behavior. He appeared to be making fun of someone who was disabled. "Excuse me, but what you're doing is." A firm grip closed around my arm before I could say anything more. Jessica, who was seated next to me, was firmly gripping my arm while shaking her head. Jessica was the one who made this arrangement, not my company. Even though I was against doing business with someone like Michael, Jessica had good reason to remain silent. I said nothing, honoring her request, and waited for the waiter to come get our order. I gave Jessica a gesture under the table that only she could comprehend. With my left hand, I traced a circle with 5 fingers, and with my other hand, I pretended to stir with a spoon. Jessica nodded slightly. I was relieved because it appeared the coffee sign had been received. "Please, 3 coffees. Might we also be able to get some damp towels?" I inquired. "I apologize," the waiter replied, apparently forgetting to bring the towels when we were seated, and then inquired about the cream and sugar. The dilemma was resolved when Jessica ordered all 3 coffees with the milk and sugar on the side. Jessica's hearing issue went unnoticed by the server because of how naturally she responded. As she'd previously stated, she developed the abilities to get by in day-to-day life since she was an adult. Michael watched the conversation between Jessica and the waiter in silence, perhaps recognizing there was nothing to find fault with. I found the entire exchange to be flawless. However, Michael slapped his hand down on the table when the server left and the coffee arrived. "Hey, how much more difficulty will you cause me? I requested that you get black coffee." Jessica was shocked by the loud sound and her shoulders shook. Taking offense at Michael's outburst, I spoke up for Jessica. "Pardon me, but I think you received everything you requested." Jessica had generously prepared for a wet towel in addition to the black coffee. The only thing you needed to do was not use the cream and sugar because they were placed separately. But Michael shook his head angrily, blurting out some silly justification. "I wouldn't need to use the spoon if I hadn't ordered the cream and sugar. I detest having a messy table, and I now have to cope with extra stuff on it." It was true, but there was a little container of cream and a spoon inside the saucer he used for his coffee. Even just getting those moved aside was giving him too much bother. He was grumbling. My wrath flared as I realized there was no cause to argue with him. But before I could say anything, Jessica knelt alongside me. "I apologize profusely for the inconvenience. I'm grateful for your continuing business and will make sure it doesn't happen again." Michael seemed pleased by Jessica's apology as he nodded. Even though I didn't believe them, I remained silent and observed their discussion. Let's dive straight in. I've put up a proposal that includes our parts cost and delivery schedule. Michael was given some documents by Jessica that she had taken out of her backpack. Michael took a quick look over the paperwork before slamming them onto the table. "This is absurd. Both the price and the delivery speed are excessively expensive. Reduce the cost in half and add 3 extra days to the delivery time. I'll purchase twice as many parts as I had initially intended if you agree." Regarding the estimate from Jessica's parts manufacturing company, Michael was putting out ridiculous expectations. Without going too further into the records, it was clear that Michael was making excessive demands. "I apologize, but that just isn't possible. Even though our staff members are trying their hardest, we are unable to meet those deadlines." Jessica labored to carry on the conversation, observing Michael's lips closely. Michael persisted in being unyielding, pressing his egotistical demands even harder. "Your revenue won't change if I buy twice as much, right? And the reason your business is moving so slowly is due to those pointless ideas about social responsibility. You should never even leave the house, people like you. You simply cause hardship for society." Such a comment was ridiculous in light of the cost ratios, but it appeared Michael was not very familiar with basic cost principles. The next thing he said made my blood boil. Jessica founded her business with the goal of assisting those who are socially disadvantaged, drawing on her own struggles. Her aggressive advocacy for hiring disabled individuals resulted in a decrease in production when compared to regular businesses. Her charges were greater because of this. Jessica had nevertheless put in a great deal of effort to get contracts and maintain her company. It was obvious that there was no way to increase the profit margin any further. Jessica made a valiant attempt to clarify, but Michael just laughed and yelled, "Go away, subcontractor. Dealing with individuals such as yourself will hinder my business." Michael grabbed up his coffee cup and poured it directly over Jessica's head, not taking a sip from it. Exclaiming, "Hot!" With haste, Jessica took out a handkerchief and wiped away the coffee that had seeped into her suit. The sister who had taken care of me since we were young and always put me first was now being embarrassed in front of me. My rage reached a breaking point due to Michael's ridiculous actions. I was ready to yell when Jessica spoke, her voice so icy that it made my skin crawl. "Maybe you give your president a call. I should speak with him first." She then gave Michael a chilly, steely gaze. Stunned by Jessica's abrupt transformation in attitude, Michael first appeared astonished before erupting into laughter. "I apologize. My fingers went slick. But you'd like me to give Mr. Thompson a call. What do you believe someone running a small business like you could potentially accomplish?" Jessica kept dabbing at the coffee mark on her shoulder with her handkerchief, as if she was still in disbelief at the stubborn stain. "I had the suit created at my place of business, and Jessica received it as a gift when she opened for business. Using the finest material, I had created it to fit her frame properly, so she could look confident during any discussion. Look, I apologize for the coffee. Since it wasn't deliberate, let's put it behind us. And this agreement is off too. Yes, it's a loss for us both, but let's go on and declare it even. It's obvious that Michael believed this would not really affect his business, but he was unaware of what was going to happen. It was not anything Jessica or I intended to forgive him for. We were going to absolutely destroy him. Observing Michael take off his coat and go, I made a self-promise to persevere. I started implementing my plan that same day. Equipment manufacture and distribution were two of the businesses that Michael's company, together with its subsidiaries, operated in. Since his business strategy and mine were so similar, I decided to open a rival eatery close to one of Michael's establishments. I had been considering starting a restaurant for some time, and this development just expedited the process, which was ideal for me. Michael's restaurant franchise, well known for having many locations, took great satisfaction in providing high-quality ingredients at affordable prices. We were ideal rivals because, coincidentally, I also valued premium ingredients and wanted to provide the public with that experience. I made significant investments in marketing and promotion when my restaurant first opened, and word of mouth quickly spread, making it one of the most difficult places to acquire a reservation. It was evident that Michael's patrons were gravitating toward my place, and we skillfully steered clear of the typical hazard faced by eateries that lose their appeal after a certain point in time. My secretary called me one day to let me know that someone wanted to talk to me. It was Michael when I answered. I gave in to his insistence that we have a meeting, provided it would only be brief and one time. Michael was in full shock when he saw me. He didn't realize I was the CEO. You're the person from that time. I cynically replied, Yes, I'm well aware of who you are, as I observed Michael repeatedly bend his head. I think we had a prior negotiation together. I had assumed back then that you were just a worker for that small business. I'm sorry, I didn't greet you correctly. He obviously hadn't grasped the fact that Jessica and I were related. I asked Michael what he wanted, frustrated by his persistent lack of respect. First and foremost, why are you visiting? I'm pretty busy, as I stated on the phone, I said icily. Michael clutched his hands uncomfortably as he gave his explanation for being here. I take it that your company has opened a few stores close to ours recently. Given how similar our business strategies are, I believed it would be advantageous for us to collaborate. As he continued, it was evident that Michael was suggesting that his business acquire my company. He was disturbed by the rivalry in the area, but he now desired to purchase my business in order to capitalize on the circumstances. Naturally, I had no plans to close my company. Silently opening the door, I gave Michael the all-clear to depart. Are you certain? I can take revenge in a lot of ways. Michael muttered, his voice filled with venom. Perhaps from his wounded pride, Don't come crying to me, will you regret it? I swallowed my want to respond and bit back a response. Instead, I stayed silent. Michael bit his lip and walked out, leaving a noisy trail of footsteps behind him. He presumably believed that I owned just restaurants, which is why he felt so entitled to address me in such a haughty manner. It is necessary to impart to individuals such as Michael the harsh realities of the commercial world. I grabbed up my phone and tapped the contact of a crucial person to plan my next step. I got a message the next day from the employees I put in charge of running the rival eatery. Upon opening the URL they gave, I was met with a plethora of defamatory remarks on our store. The same account has made multiple posts from the day before. Was this a revenge Michael had in mind? If that is the case, it was very immature and unethical. The posts were obviously aimed to scare away consumers because they were full of lies about food safety and insults directed at the employees. I offered the staff some instructions to calm them down, and they told me that none of these statements were accurate. I have total faith in all of you. Keep the remarks exactly as they are, but send a disclosure request and get in touch with the site authorities. This is more than sufficient justification to file a lawsuit. Together, let's clear your names." My secretary entered the room as though she was waiting for me to end the call. It appears that I was called. It was clearly Michael again, when she claimed it was from the person who wanted to meet yesterday. But I told my secretary not to answer the phone. "Sorry, please tell him I'm not interested in talking, and let him know that I'll be away on a business trip for a while, so I won't be available." Disguised as a business trip, I went back to work, trying to avoid Michael. I was going about my day when I saw Jessica's email on my phone. The text of the message said, "I want to thank you all for the other day. Well, Michael arrived in our office, and now things are becoming a little problematic. He simply won't go. Could you take care of this instead of me calling the police? That would worry the workers." As soon as I opened Jessica's email, I sighed. I take it that he went to disturb Jessica instead of trying to reach me. How shameless he had to be to show up at her office was something that kept crossing my mind. Something in me wanted to see his daring for myself, so I hurriedly dressed and went to Jessica's office. "Are you back from your travels?" As soon as he saw me, Michael exclaimed, "I've been hoping to see you." He came running over and took hold of both my hands. He had done a complete 180 from when he was bragging. "I won't forgive you, even if you regret it," not too long ago. Disregarding Michael's endeavors, I faced Jessica. "You mentioned that you were having some issues. What precisely took place?" I replied in basic sign language, and Jessica gave me a weary expression in return. "He won't leave. He's attempting to make me a new agreement now. But I don't have time for this because I've already begun working with another company." Michael jumped in quickly, saying, "I'm getting even greater terms than before because of this. I sincerely hope that our collaboration can continue." Jessica firmly shook her head, rejecting the proposition even though he begged. "We've already reached our limit. In addition, didn't you always whine about how ineffective my business was? You made it sound as though those of us with disabilities were an inconvenience to society." Jessica uttered, "I will never forgive you," with firmness. She said, "And furthermore, isn't the real reason you want to make a deal with my company because you're trying to keep ties with my brother?" Michael groaned, as though she had struck the mark, and then exclaimed, "Ugh," before bending deeply to his knees. "Mr. Thompson instructed me to plead for your pardon at all costs. Please, I beg you, please." I cast a harsh gaze down at his pathetic frame. I had recently gotten in touch with Mr. Thompson of Michael's business to let him know that my company would no longer be providing any of our products to them. We had been doing their primary marketing and promotion, as well as providing their uniforms at a reduced cost. Mr. Thompson, worried about what had transpired, quickly reached out upon hearing this. Mr. Thompson sighed deeply as I described Michael's actions in detail and promised to look into the matter. Michael had been frantically trying to get in touch with me and had even attempted to contact Jessica, so I'm sure Mr. Thompson got in touch with him straight away. Naturally, neither of us intended to extend our forgiveness to him. "If you continue to stay here, I'll call the police, and I'll also inform Mr. Thompson." Michael's face became pale at the mention of Mr. Thompson and the police. Without saying anything else, he promptly gave us another bow. It became out that Michael was the author of the negative reviews of my restaurant. This naturally resulted in legal action, and the outcome is still pending. Our attorney is certain that Michael will suffer serious repercussions. Michael is undoubtedly waiting tensely for the decision as well. Since then, a different company has taken the position of Michael's restaurant, which was next to mine. In addition to losing business to my establishment, they also experienced problems as a result of mishandled food and inadequate worker training. Strangely enough, the very criticisms Michael had leveled at my business proved to be valid for him as well. The idea that he had been talking about his own company made me chuckle. Later, I received a personal apology from Mr. Thompson. In addition, he asked that we continue doing business together, claiming that Michael had been treated fairly. Michael was probably dismissed since I haven't seen him since. It made sense, given all the damage he wreaked. It is my sole hope that he makes a turnaround in his life and returns to society. In the meantime, my business keeps growing and branching out into new products and services. When I consider them, Jessica's business is also becoming well known for its inclusive employment policies, which foster an environment in which individuals with disabilities can prosper. Businesses that are primarily motivated by self-interest. I couldn't believe my ears when I answered the phone. Are you serious? I practically yelled when my mom suggested something utterly out of the blue. Marry my sister-in-law. How did we even get to that topic? My name is Brandon, and I'm 31 years old. I was just expecting a regular check-in call from my mom. But instead, I got, Brandon, how are you? Listen, this might be sudden, but would you marry Emily? What? Where did that come from? It's not exactly a normal follow-up to how are you. I was so stunned that I blurted out my shock. For a moment, I wondered if something was wrong with my mom, but she stayed calm and kept talking. Well, you see, Emily's having a tough time raising her child alone. Linda from the neighborhood mentioned that Emily seemed really tired lately. Linda. The same Linda who's been nosy since I was a kid. I was curious about what she had seen this time. Emily, my sister-in-law, lives about 3 hours away, so we only see each other during the holidays. This past Thanksgiving, I had a great time playing with my 5-year-old niece, Sophie. But now, Linda's observation had me worried about Emily. What happened to Emily? I asked. According to Linda, Emily was at the park with Sophie, just sitting on a bench, not even responding when Sophie called her. She looked really worn out. I started to think about Emily, who always seemed so cheerful. But doing everything alone must be exhausting. I met Emily when I was still in college. My brother Michael introduced us when I was 22, and he was 5 years older than me. We weren't super close as brothers, probably because of our age gap and different personalities. I was all about baseball, while Michael preferred reading and crafting. He was the smart one, often helping me with my studies. Brandon, do you need any study guides for the entrance exams? I can help you out, Michael would say. I wasn't confident about my high school entrance exams since I spent most of my time in club activities. So, instead of cram school, I asked Michael for help. First, try solving these problems, he said. I didn't do too well on the first try, but seeing my results, Michael became an enthusiastic tutor. We worked hard together, and I managed to pass the exam for my desired high school. Michael, already a college student by then, was thrilled for me. That's great, Brandon. You worked hard, he said, ruffling my hair. That moment stuck with me. From then on, we started talking more. Michael, always a step ahead, became my role model. He could be stubborn, but he was kind, and I looked up to him. When I was in my sophomore year of college, Michael was 25, and that's when he introduced me to Emily. I remember how bashful he sounded on the phone. Brandon, I want to introduce you to someone, he said, trying not to sound too excited. A girlfriend. That's awesome, bro. I can't wait to meet her, I replied, eager to see the woman who had captured Michael's heart. She's not just my girlfriend. I'm thinking of marrying her. Michael was calm and intellectual, which made him popular with women, though he seemed oblivious to it. I couldn't wait to meet the woman he wanted to marry. Getting married. That's huge. When do I get to meet her? I'll be home for New Year's. Will you be around, Brandon? Yeah, I'll be there. My part-time job's on break. I'm looking forward to it. I'll call you again when I have more details. After hanging up, I told my parents, and it turned out they had already heard. They were just as excited as I was. As New Year's approached, we eagerly cleaned the house and did some serious shopping. Finally, the day came when Michael would bring his girlfriend over. We were all restless after Michael called to say they were almost here. When the doorbell rang, we even argued over who should answer it. I ended up opening the front door. Brandon, long time no see. How are Mom and Dad? They're good, and you must be his girlfriend. Nice to meet you. Standing nervously behind Michael was Emily, his future wife. She stepped forward, trying to hide her nerves, and replied politely, "Nice to meet you. I'm Emily. I'm in a relationship with Michael. Sorry for intruding on your New Year's family gathering. Thank you so much for letting me come." I couldn't help but like Emily right away. Despite her nervousness, she greeted us with such politeness. She had fair skin, big eyes, and something adorably kitten-like about her. I thought she was genuinely cute, and it seemed my parents felt the same. Oh my, she's so cute. Dad, isn't she just adorable? Emily, the woman set to become your mother-in-law, seems to have really taken a liking to you. I thought to myself. Any worries about typical mother-in-law and daughter-in-law issues quickly faded away. Indeed, she's a lovely young lady. Let's not stand in the entrance. Please come in, Dad said, smiling like I'd never seen before. He once mentioned how fun it was raising 2 boys, but he always wanted to raise a girl too. He let that slip while slightly tipsy. I'm looking forward to you and Michael finding wives, he had said at the time. I had just broken up with a girlfriend, so I could only respond with a wry smile. Yeah, let's go in. And Emily, please don't be nervous. If I may say so myself, you'll find everyone in our family quite nice, I reassured her. Michael, who is usually kind, had a particularly gentle expression reserved just for Emily. She had really caught a great guy. We introduced ourselves a bit nervously and enjoyed a meal together. Mom was incredibly enthusiastic, preparing lots of Michael's favorite dishes. We had a great time looking at photo albums and spending time together. That time is still a precious memory for me. Thanks for today. It was fun. And thanks for meeting Emily. She's such a great person. Take good care of her, bro. Yeah, count on me, Michael said proudly, and Emily smiled shyly but looked very happy. My parents and I watched them leave, and a happy day came to an end. Their relationship progressed smoothly, and a year later, they happily held their wedding ceremony. Brandon, I'm so happy to become family with you. Me too. Can I call you sis from now on? Of course you can. I'm fine with bro too. It'd be weird if Brandon suddenly started calling me big brother now, right? Probably. I'll still call you bro even when we're old and gray. That's fine by me. Hey, let's drink together even when we're old, Michael said with a grin. We did a fist bump as we watched the ceremony to the end. Seeing them pledge their eternal love in the chapel was so moving. I cried a little. Well, maybe more than a little. After the wedding, Michael and Emily lived happily, and we all got along well as an extended family. 3 years into their marriage, Michael called to say they had something to tell us and asked if they could come over. I was at work at the time and only heard about it when I got home. But when I found out Michael and Emily were coming, I noticed something was off with my usually cheerful mom. What's wrong, Mom? You seem more gloomy than usual. Did something happen? Mom is usually optimistic and laughs a lot, but she was different this time. She seemed a bit troubled when I asked her. Do I? Well, I'm a bit worried. Michael sounded so lifeless on the phone. It was just different from usual. All I could do was nod vaguely at her words. I couldn't imagine a downcast Michael. He's always been so calm, but being calm is different from lacking energy. Thinking we'd understand better once we met, I tried to encourage Mom. Maybe he's just tired from work. We'll know when we see them. That seemed to settle her a bit. That's true. No point worrying now. They're coming this Saturday, so let's make some delicious food to cheer them up. Mom started cleaning the house as usual, and I felt relieved. I was looking forward to seeing Michael again on Saturday. About 20 minutes after Michael texted to say they were almost home, they arrived at the front door. Our smiles froze when we saw them. Michael had lost a noticeable amount of weight. He'd always been slim, and we never thought he'd need to diet. Hey, long time no see. Surprised? Huh. I lost some weight, Michael said with a smile, but his smile seemed tired. Shall we go in? You must be tired. Emily gently nudged him with a worried look. Snapping out of it, my parents invited them to sit in the living room. We all sat around the dining table in silence until Mom served tea. After taking a slow sip, Michael began talking. Sorry for the shock. I lost a lot of weight. Losing weight really drained your energy. What happened? Heat stroke? Mom asked, her brows furrowed with concern. No, not heat stroke. Cancer. Terminal. They said I have a year left. Michael spoke so casually, like he was talking about the weather. Naturally, my parents and I froze. I don't know how long we stayed like that, but we snapped out of it when Emily sniffled. I moistened my dry mouth with tea and forced myself to speak. Probably Dad or Mom should have asked, but they were still in shock. I had to be strong and start the conversation since we all had the same questions. Terminal? Is it really? I mean, incurable. Not even surgery or chemotherapy? I asked, my voice trembling. Michael responded calmly, yes, there's nothing that can be done. I even sought second opinions, hoping to extend my life, but after visiting 4 hospitals, they all said the same thing. I'm just tired of it all. Emily was silently crying next to him. It broke my heart. They had just built a house, and they were both so excited about their careers. They had so much to look forward to. You were so happy about the big project at work. Why does it have to be you, bro? I said, my voice shaking as I fought back tears. It's harder for Michael, I thought. They had just gotten married, bought their own home, and everything was going well. Their future was suddenly given a finite deadline. That was the hardest part. Is there anything we can do? Anything we can help with? Mom asked through her tears, but even while crying, she looked steadily into Michael's eyes. There's a lot, but the most immediate request is about Emily, Michael said, looking at her with his usual gentle smile. Emily tried to smile back, but tears kept streaming down her face. Emily's pregnant. Hearing that, I couldn't hold back my tears anymore. A strange sound came from deep in my throat as the realization hit me. Tears wouldn't stop flowing. Mom started crying loudly, too. I buried my face in my sleeve like a child. Will you make it? Will you get to see your child, even just for a moment? Dad asked, his voice trembling. I plan to see the child. I want to, at all costs. I hope to be there for at least the first 3 months after the birth, Michael replied. As we wiped our tears, I saw Michael smiling. Emily was smiling next to him too. I couldn't stop wondering how much they had talked and cried about this before telling us. The thought made me cry again. It's going to be tough after the baby is born, right? I plan to go to fatherhood classes and share the parenting since Emily has no parents. Could we ask for help after the birth? Don't worry. Leave it to us. We'll be there for you. Emily, will you rely on me? Mom said, her voice steady despite the tears. Yes, of course. Thank you so much, Mom. I appreciate it, Emily responded, her voice breaking. Sorry, Dad, Mom. I haven't been a good son. And the order of things is all wrong, isn't it? Sorry, Brandon. I guess I won't be able to drink with you when we're old. Michael apologized, referencing our conversation from the wedding. I managed to smile through my tears. I'll drink on your behalf, bro. Do that for me, but don't overdo it, okay? He said, reaching across the table to ruffle my hair. His hand was still Michael's, but the wrist peeking out of his sleeve was thin. This conversation wasn't a lie or a dream. It was real. Michael really had limited time left. The reality was so sad and frustrating that I cried again. I wanted to rebel, saying I wasn't a child to be comforted, but maybe this could be the last time he'd comfort me. Maybe there's still time, but maybe, can I enjoy being comforted for a bit longer? Bro, I'll ruffle your hair as much as you want until it's time, Michael said happily, continuing to ruffle my hair. My parents and I were visibly affected, and I could hear them sniffing louder, but I didn't mind. I think Michael probably didn't either. After being comforted by Michael for as long as I needed, he and Emily eventually left. Our entire family was worried about them driving home. Even though I might have lost some strength and get tired more easily now, I still want to live as normally as possible. I assured them not to worry, promising to make sure he'd be careful. We repeatedly reminded Emily to take good care of Michael before seeing them off. As soon as they left, Mom collapsed in tears. Why? Why does it have to be him? Why does he have to go through this? She cried like I had never seen before, wailing loudly. I would take his place if I could, especially now that they're expecting a child. Even Dad, who had tried to remain calm, knelt beside Mom and cried. He was just trying to stay composed, but I knew he wanted to cry too. Dad has always been a devoted father, and seeing my parents like this broke my heart. I knelt down and hugged them both. The parents who once seemed so big and protective now felt so small to me. Let's do everything we can to support Michael and Emily, I said, my voice choked with tears. I don't know how, but we'll give it our all. My words brought us together, and we agreed on 3 things during our family meeting: not to impose our opinions on Michael and Emily, to support whatever they wanted to do, and to offer financial help within reason. We were careful to give them space, but we stayed involved in their lives. When Emily had severe morning sickness, Mom stayed overnight with her, and Dad or I accompanied her to the hospital when needed. As time passed, Emily's pregnancy reached 6 months, and Michael found strength in talking to their growing child. But then, one late night, the phone rang, startling us all. I took care of Mom, who was frozen in shock, while Dad answered the call. Hello, Emily. Yeah. Dad's tense voice filled us with dread. Mom clutched my sleeve, and I held her tightly. Understood. We'll be there right away, Dad said, and I knew the time had come sooner than expected. Is Michael not doing well? I asked, my heart sinking. He suddenly became unwell and lost consciousness. They've asked for the family to come, Dad explained. Why now? Mom cried. He was so close to meeting his child. I felt a wave of frustration, but I knew we needed to stay strong. Encouraging my devastated parents, I spoke up. Let's say our goodbyes properly. Let's get dressed quickly. Dad, should I drive? It might be safer. My calm tone seemed to motivate my parents, and they began to move. Would you mind? Thank you, Dad said, relieved. We hurried through the night, driving 3 long hours on the highway to the hospital. I kept wishing it were closer, but we trusted the doctors Michael and Emily had chosen, so we never interfered with their decision. When we finally arrived, we were led to Michael's room. It was a simple private room, where my brother lay on the bed, looking so fragile. Emily was by his side, crying and holding his hand. Look, everyone's here. Your father, mother, and Brandon, she said to him, her voice trembling. Michael. My parents spoke to him one after another, but I stood frozen, unable to move. I had so much to say, but saying goodbye felt like accepting the inevitable, and I couldn't find the courage. Emily, still crying, gently pulled my hand. Brandon, please say your goodbyes to Michael, she urged, her grip surprisingly strong. She was the one suffering the most, with a child to raise on her own now. I couldn't afford to be scared. I nodded and let her lead me to Michael's bed. I took his thin hand in mine. Bro, you've worked so hard, I said, my voice shaking. I'll never forget you. Don't worry about Emily and the baby. We'll take good care of them. It's okay. I squeezed his hand tightly, hoping it would reassure him. I wiped away my tears as Emily spoke to him too. "Thank you for all the happiness," she said softly. "Our time together might have been shorter than others, but I was happy. I'll make sure our child is happy too. Thank you." We all cried uncontrollably as if Michael had waited for everyone's farewells before quietly passing away. After that, I cried so much I lost track of time. When I finally came to my senses, everything was over. A small altar for Michael was set up in our house. Every day, we gathered as a family to pray at the altar and remember Michael. "Emily, we're excited for you, but are you okay?" Going back to the house Michael built alone is worrying, but Emily insisted. She refused to stay with us until after the birth and recovery. "I need to be in the house Michael built for us," she said through tears. We couldn't insist, so we asked her to contact us if anything happened and kept our distance. Then, as my parents and I discussed the timing, we got a message from Emily. She was going into labor and heading to the hospital. Mom quickly got ready, and Dad prepared the car. "Let's go," Mom said, grabbing her bag. "Brandon, can you stay home?" "Sure, I'll be fine," I replied. Seeing Mom so busy, I felt relieved. She had been quite down after my parents left. I prayed at Michael's altar, hoping everything would go well for Emily. The next morning, around 10 a.m., I got a call from Mom. "She's born. A beautiful baby girl. Emily is tired but okay." Relief washed over me, and tears of joy rolled down my cheeks. "That's great," I managed to say. After hanging up, I prayed again at Michael's altar, feeling that even Michael's photo seemed pleased. I met my niece, Sophie, about 2 weeks after her discharge from the hospital. Ma had warned me that a woman's body after childbirth is like recovering from a car accident, which was quite scary. "Thank you, Brandon," Emily said, propped up in bed with the baby. "I'm single and clueless, but I heard a woman's body needs care after childbirth, so please lean on Mom and take it easy." "Thank you. Mom has been taking care of everything," I replied. "You're our beloved daughter now, and you gave us a grandchild." "Thank you." Emily named her Sophie after Michael. She offered for me to hold the baby, but I refused. I was too scared of something happening to her. "No, I can't," I said, panicking. The women laughed, but Dad understood my fear. "I get it, Brandon. I was the same with Michael." I agreed with Dad and asked to take a photo with my phone instead. "Let me hold her when she's a bit stronger." "Can I take a picture?" I asked. "Of course," Emily said. I took countless photos. Sophie looked adorable up close. When she opened her eyes, she somehow resembled Michael, and tears welled up in my eyes. Maybe she does look a bit like Bro, I thought, wiping my tears as I began my first meeting with Sophie. Years later, while driving to see Emily, I thought about everything that had happened. Sophie was now a thriving 5-year-old, and Emily had been raising her alone while working. She looked well when I last visited, but I decided to surprise her this time instead of calling ahead. I had arrived at the house Michael built, where Emily and Sophie now lived. I pressed the intercom button and heard Sophie's footsteps running inside. "Just a minute, Sophie. Don't open the door yourself," Emily said. But Sophie ignored her and flung the door open. "Brandon, what brings you here?" Emily looked tired. "Hey, Emily. It's been a while. I'm here to take Sophie for a bit." My sudden offer surprised her. "What do you mean, take her?" "You're pushing yourself too hard. How much are you sleeping and eating?" I asked gently. I knew Emily, who struggles to ask for help and handles everything on her own, would only push herself harder if she felt criticized. "I'll take Sophie to a theme park she's been wanting to visit. We'll be away for 2 nights. Can you let her kindergarten know she'll be off for 3 days?" I showed Sophie the tickets with her favorite characters on them. "Hey, Sophie, how about a trip to the park with Uncle Brandon?" When Sophie recognized the theme park, her face lit up with joy. "Let's go with Uncle Brandon. Mom's staying home to take a break." She needs it too, I said. It might be tough for my 5-year-old niece to grasp, but I explained that her mom needed rest. Sophie glanced at me and then at Emily before breaking into a big smile. Okay, Mom. I want to wear my pink pants. Let's go now. Emily snapped back to reality. Pink pants. Got it. Can we chat while you get her things ready? Sure, I replied. We quickly packed Sophie's things together. While Sophie chose a stuffed animal to bring along, I took a moment to talk with Emily. I told her how Linda had noticed Emily looked exhausted and how we were concerned about her. Linda even suggested I should marry her. Emily was shocked. What? Your mom said that? She asked, surprised. Her reaction was what I expected. I was baffled at first too. We both laughed, though I was trying to stay strong for Sophie. Tears started to well up in Emily's eyes. I could tell she hadn't shared her struggles with anyone since Michael passed away. I handed her a handkerchief and felt a strong urge to support her. Maybe making Mom's suggestion a reality wasn't such a bad idea. Emily and Sophie's feelings mattered, but I thought it could be a good idea. We knew each other's personalities, even if there were things we hadn't shown. It's better than starting from scratch. Emily looked up at me, tears still in her eyes, her face flushed. Are you teasing me? This is a big deal for me and Sophie. I'm not teasing, I said. I understand it's important. You're tired now and need rest. Here's something from Mom. I handed her an envelope filled with cash and said, she wants you to use this for yourself. Emily cried a bit more, but looked somewhat relieved. You look relieved, I said. I'm glad you could cry. Think about what I said. I never thought of you that way, Brandon. You've always been just my brother-in-law. But now, I remember something Michael said. What did he say? I asked. He said you were kind and compassionate. If anything happened, I should rely on you. That I could trust you with me and the baby. Emily chuckled. It sounded so bossy at the time, but now it makes sense. I laughed. Michael's intuition was spot on. He trusted me enough to believe I could take care of his family. I laughed again, trying to hide my emotions. Emily laughed too, and just then, Sophie returned, carrying an armful of stuffed animals and looking thrilled. Her adorable excitement made us both laugh. After convincing Sophie to bring just one toy, we headed off for 2 fun nights. Sophie behaved well, managing bathroom trips and changing clothes on her own. After bathing her at my parents' house, I knew there'd be no issues. But her boundless energy was impressive. By the second night, I fully grasped the challenges of parenting and deeply respected Emily for handling it all alone. All right, let's head back to Mom's place. Yay, Sophie cheered. After 2 fun-filled nights and 3 days away, we finally returned home. Emily was waiting for us outside, just as I had promised. Sophie, bursting with excitement, waved at us from the car window. Once we parked and I got her out, she ran straight into Emily's arms. Sophie chattered nonstop about our adventures, and Emily, smiling and attentive, seemed more energized. Once inside, Sophie plopped down on my lap, using my arms as a chair. It was so cute that I couldn't help but smile as I recounted our activities. As Sophie started to get sleepy and fussy, Emily suggested bedtime. But Sophie refused to be held by her, saying, I want to sleep with Uncle Brandon, not Mommy. Uncle Brandon, hold me. I picked up the grumpy Sophie and asked Emily to set up a bed. All right, let's sleep. Uncle Brandon will be here too, I said as I lay down next to her. Sophie chatted for a bit but soon fell asleep. Watching her peaceful face, I thought how adorable she was, and I must have drifted off too. I woke up to Sophie patting my face. Seeing me jump, both Sophie and Emily burst into laughter. You looked so comfy sleeping next to Sophie that we didn't want to wake you, Emily said. I was surprised. Keeping up with a 5-year-old's energy for 2 days straight had been more tiring than I expected. Suddenly, Sophie asked, "Hey, Uncle Brandon, aren't you staying here?" I was puzzled. Emily seemed confused, too. Sophie continued, "I want Uncle Brandon to always be at our house. I want to play, eat meals together, and nap. I wish Uncle Brandon could be my daddy." Emily was quiet, unsure how to respond. Sophie pointed at Michael's photo and said, "It's okay to have two daddies." Emily started crying, and I couldn't help but join her. Sophie looked bewildered and asked, "Mommy, does it hurt somewhere?" Emily, wiping her tears, said, "No, honey, I'm just surprised by how thoughtful you are. Yes, having two daddies is okay." I felt genuinely moved by Sophie's innocence and clarity. I silently vowed to make her and Emily happy, taking Michael's place. Of course, that includes both Sophie and Emily. Sophie then suggested, "Should we ask Mom? If Michael were here, he'd laugh and say everything will work out just fine." Emily said to me, "Thank you, Brandon. How about we start dating with the understanding that you'll be a dad?" Those words made me incredibly happy. "Thank you, I'm looking forward to it," I replied. Sophie cheered, "Yay, let's hug." She pulled me over to Emily for a group hug. All three of us smiled. Sophie kept repeating hug and giggling happily while Emily smiled shyly. I vowed to myself and to Michael to always protect these smiles.